when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you built a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you'll say, I did it all.
Won't you bring me down today?
तुझे याद कर लिया है, तुझे याद कर लिया है, आयत की तरह कायम तू हो गई है, कायम तू हो गई है, रिवायत की तरह तुझे याद कर लिया है, मरने तलक रहेगी, मरने तलक रहेगी, तू आदत की तरह तुझे याद कर लिया है, ओ तुझे याद कर लिया है, आयत की तरह।
ta jum rum ta dhalam ku tak ta ku da da kida 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 ta jum ta ka jum ta ta kida ta jum kida jum ta rum ta rum ta kida ta kida 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 ta di ta dan ta run ta din ta da jum ta nam ta rum ta din ta kida kida dim ta kida ta jum dim da jum nam da jum tam ta kida ta kida dim ta jum dim da kida jum da kida jum da jum da kida ta jum kida jum ta ni ta ta dan ta dan ta ta jum ta jum dim da jum nam da kida jum ta dim dum nam da kida di ta dan ta dan ta dim ta ಧಣತತ ತಡಿತ ಧಣತ ಧಣ ತದ ತಂಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ತದಿಂ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ತದಿಂ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ತದಿಂ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ತದಿಂ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ಜುಂ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದ ತಂಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದಿಂಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ತರಿಗಿಡದಿಗೆ ದಂ ಗಿಡದಿಗೆ
Well, I'd say you mentioned a lot of the boards that I sit on and the things that I do, and I would say in most circumstances, they needed a woman on the board. That's true, though, to start with. But as you say, our education activities pretty much cover the spectrum from early childhood education in a madrasa in East Africa to PhD level medicine and nursing. And throughout all of that, going back to my great-grandfather in the 1920s, who encouraged his community and others to educate girl children rather than boy children, because the girl child would educate her family. There has always been this ethos of putting a lot of emphasis on the role of women in society and giving those women the tools and the wherewithal to be educated mothers and leaders of their societies. And I think just looking around us today, the impact of that is very clear.
Yali Madet, welcome, bienvenue. Thank you for tuning in to another Friday Night Reflections. My name is Farah Marani, and I am so honored to welcome all of our Jamaati members, our multi-faith family members, and everyone tuning in from across the country and from around the world. I'm coming to you from my home in Los Angeles, California, and it is such a pleasure to be hosting tonight's episode. And yes, it is indeed sunny and warm here. While I am based in the United States, I am as proud a Canadian as ever. Maybe even more so now. The restrictions due to COVID-19 have made me particularly miss my old stomping grounds in Toronto, or rather, Toronto. Like the cherry blossoms in High Park and the crowded Queen Street car during rush hour. Yes, I even miss the TTC. But mostly, I miss spending the winter with my family and friends. Actually, let's be honest, I really don't miss the winter or the cold or the snow. But I do miss my family and my friends a lot. Inshallah, with the increased capacity for vaccinations across Canada, the time will be soon when we will be able to see one another in person, sooner rather than later. This week, several provinces have established their hotlines and websites to book vaccination appointments. And I know that many seniors in our Jamaat have been able to get their vaccinations already. We encourage every Jamaati member to review their respective province's Ministry of Health website or contact your local health board to find out more information on how and when you can make your appointment. I hope you also enjoyed last week's episode on the life and stories of Imam Ali. For me, Dr. Rashid reminded me of the importance that Imam Ali and Maulana Hazar Imam place on living our values. I also enjoyed the highlights of justice and remembrance. And, well, I've even downloaded a couple of ebooks from the IIS website. Yeah, my parents would be very proud. This Monday, we commemorate International Women's Day. It's an occasion to highlight and celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements made by women. As an actor, writer, and advocate, I've personally worked hard to support a more dynamic and inclusive representation of women on screen and on all sides of the screen in the media. Telling stories of the remarkable achievements of women is just one way to overcome the stigmas that prevent us from achieving gender parity. While there is still much work to be done, I am proud to say that significant progress has been made in getting those stories published and produced all over the world. As I prepared for this evening, I took time to reflect on the history of women in our own faith, and I was so awed by the accomplishments of those who have come before me. All the way back to the time of the Prophet, Bibi Khadija, before she was the Prophet's wife, she was his employer. A successful businesswoman, the purported size of her caravan for trade missions was as big as all of the caravans of her tribesmen put together. In the original version of Bumble, Bibi Khadija also sent convoys to the Prophet to propose marriage. After the death of her father, the Prophet Muhammad, Bibi Fatima publicly challenged the Caliph Abu Bakr when he refused to give her her inheritance of a tract of land left for her by her father. Going further into our history, the oldest university that still operates in the world today, Al-Qarawiyyin, was founded by a woman, Fatima al-Fihri. Educated in fiqh, or jurisprudence, and hadith, she used her resources to build Al-Qarawiyyin and supervised its construction. This incredible tradition of Muslim women taking leadership roles in society continues to this day, and that is what we will be featuring on tonight's program. We will commence tonight with a panel of truly extraordinary women who are leaders in their institutions. They will reflect on their journeys, the role of their faith in that journey, and provide some insight for all of those who strive to follow in their footsteps. We will then spotlight a few women in our own community who are making a huge impact in their various fields. We will learn their stories and be enlightened by their inspiring journeys. There are some who say that it is important to highlight the work of successful women in order to inspire women and girls. But the account of these women, they would inspire anyone, regardless of gender. Also, tonight we are bringing back a family favorite, our Kahoot quiz, where you can play along with the Jamaat to test your knowledge of the history of women in Islam. We will then finish, as always, with some musical expressions. And now, I'd like to warmly welcome the members of our incredible panel to the show. Rumina Velshi is currently the President and CEO of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. Rumina actively promotes careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or otherwise known as STEM, especially for young women. Since joining the CNSC as President and CEO, she has launched a Women in STEM initiative to consider ways to support women in STEM careers at the CNSC and elsewhere, as well as to further STEM education by working with interested partners. Also on the panel is Dr. Karima Velji. Dr. Velji is the Vice President of Clinical Services at Ontario Shores, a Centre for Excellence for Mental Health Care in Whitby, Ontario. She has held several leadership positions in her career, including Vice President for Patient Care and Quality at St. Joseph's Healthcare and London Health Science Centre in London, Ontario, which is where I was born. Chief Operating Officer and Chief Nursing Executive at Baycrest in Toronto, and Vice President of Patient Care and Chief Nursing Executive at Toronto Rehabilitation Institute, which is now a program of University Health Network. And rounding out our proverbial table is my own very dear friend, Dr. Salima Bimani. Salima is the Chief Equity and Inclusion Strategist for the Other Bets at Alphabet, or you actually may know them better as Google. Salima works to ensure that Alphabet companies such as Waymo, which is a company designing self-driving cars, the future is real, that these companies are equitable, inclusive, and reflective of the people who are historically underrepresented. She brings to her job the innate sense that building technologies in an inclusive manner results in better technology. Please welcome Rumina, Karima, and Salima. Welcome everybody to our panel. Thank you to our panelists for giving your time and your talents and your insights today. I'm going to quickly just introduce everybody. Rumina, if you wouldn't mind beginning.
Yali Madat, everyone. My name is Rumina Velshi, and I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, Canada's nuclear regulator.
Thank you. And Karima?
I'm Karima Velji. I'm Vice President for Clinical Services at Ontario Shores.
Wonderful. And Salima?
Yalimadat, everyone. I'm Salima Bimani, and I'm the Chief Equity and Inclusion Strategist for Alphabet Google.
Wonderful. What an amazing group of women we have here. If you might, could you tell us a little bit about how you got to be where you are, what it is you do, and where in the world are you?
So let me start with the easy part first. I'm in Toronto right now, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and that's Canada's nuclear regulator. And our mandate is really threefold. One is to make sure that Canadians' health and safety is protected, as is the environment, from the use of nuclear power and nuclear materials. Also making sure that Canada fulfills its obligations to the international community in ensuring that nuclear material is used for only peaceful purposes. And the last part of our mandate is to disseminate objective and scientific information about nuclear. I have a staff of about 1,000 employees spread across the country, and I'm a federal agency reporting to Parliament. And part of my role last year, I also got appointed at the International Atomic Energy Agencies as the chair of the Commission on Safety Standards that sets safety standards for nuclear facilities globally. So in a nutshell, that's what my mandate and my role is. And I've been in this role for 2.5 years now.
So you are legit, like a bona fide scientist changing the world.
I pretend to.
That's amazing. Everybody needs one of those on your zombie apocalypse team. Next up, Karima, will you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got there?
For sure, that's very admirable, Rubina. So I'm a registered nurse by background, and I started my career in the practice domain of nursing, doing frontline nursing in critical care, in med-surg areas, and in cancer care. And most recently, and now I'm Vice President for Clinical Services at Ontario Shores Centre for Mental Health Sciences. And the mandate is to really oversee the quality of care for people who are suffering from mental health conditions. I have a PhD in nursing, so certainly in the beginning, it was very much immersed in the practice domain, as I said. I ventured from there, and as I was completing my PhD, I had vast amounts of experience leading research projects, primarily in the area of cancer care. And then as I ventured into administrative or senior management roles, I switched my focus, honestly, from a very social justice perspective. So initially, while my focus was very much acute care, critical care nursing, cancer nursing, as I spent more time in the profession, very much my heart was drawn to the more marginalized populations, to the underserved populations. So I really immersed myself in ensuring we are building a system of care for seniors in Canada and in Toronto primarily. And then from there, ventured into the area of mental health and addictions. I think it's the area that I will retire from because we have so much work to do building the right system of care for people with these conditions.
Wow. And you must be so overwhelmingly busy right now with what's going on in the world, and how, as much as the COVID-19 has been affecting us, also the mental health ramifications are like sidelong with that. Well, we're very, very lucky and very blessed to have people like yourself doing what you do. So thank you for your work, especially with what's going on now. Thank you. And last but not least, Salima, will you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you are in the world?
Yeah, I'm sitting in sunny California, Northern California. Every time I tell that to my Canadian family and I tell them it's a little cold out here, they laugh at me. So
I know what that's like.
So I'm not going to tell you what it's the balmy 20 it is outside right now. Yeah, I'm in Northern California. I work, as I mentioned, I work for Alphabet. For those that don't know, in 2015, Google decided to create a parent company called Alphabet, in part because Google was not only doing their core work, which is around search, obviously, but they were also innovating in other spaces and that were really separate from what Google traditionally did. And essentially what those are moonshots in the world. So how do we use technology as a way to address big world problems, from biotechnology to, mobility and movement to, access to medicine through drone technology, like just really a whole range of what we call moonshots in the bet world. So I came into this role in 2017, and essentially I was hired to lead equity, inclusion, and diversity for all of the moonshots at Alphabet. And essentially what my role is that I'm really interested in systemic change. It's something that I have been working on for the last 2 decades of my life. My educational background is also in this space. So I have a PhD that looks at organizational community transformation that is equitable and that is inclusive. And the reason why I'm really excited about being at Google and Alphabet is because if you think about a massive technology company like Google, the kind of impact that they have on the world is really, it's huge. It's huge, not only in terms of, how we access knowledge, for instance, through the internet, but also in terms of, like, we take a company like Waymo that is actually going to change mobility for all of us, essentially, by creating autonomous driving. The impact of that is going to be so huge on humanity and its future that if we're not integrating equity, inclusion, and diversity into our businesses and getting people to think about the effect that they're going to have on the world and the people that they actually might leave out in the process, we're going to re-perpetuate the same injustices that we've seen historically. So I feel really grateful to be able to do this work across the bets. And like I said, it's been my life's work. And I always go back to the story of when I was 3 years old, and we were in Toronto. My family were refugees from Uganda, and so they ended up in Toronto in the mid 1970s, like many other Ismailis. And 3 years into my life, I remember coming home in a car. We were in the car, and I was in the back. And our house was spray painted and had egg all over it. And it basically said, "Pakis, go home." And although I was 3 and I don't remember, I obviously couldn't read, so I don't know what was all there, but I remembered this feeling of, oh my God, people don't want us here. And I will never forget that feeling. And so that has really been that like early life experience, along with many others, really attuned me to how there are differences in our society based on race, based on gender, based on ethnicity, based on religion. And if we don't attend to those, we're going to continue to create a present and future that does not serve the entirety of humanity. And that's a problem.
That's incredible. You actually perfect segue into my first question for the panel, which was, can you speak to us and share with us one of your earliest memories of acknowledging or being informed of your gender, of being a woman, and what that experience was like and how it guided you into what you do now? Rumina, if you would.
So, isn't that interesting? My earliest memory too is when I was probably just a little over 2 years old, maybe not quite 3. And so I come from a family of girls only. I'm the third daughter, and my mother was expecting her 4th child. And I remember so clearly my paternal grandmother telling me to pray for a brother. And I have an uncle who's got boys and girls, and I had seen how much preferential the treatment was to the boys than to the girls. And but it is from that time on recognizing that it's not a level playing field that we're in. These are cultural gender biases that exist, and one has had to live with that. And I'm also quite fascinated to find out that all 3 of us have such similar aspirations when it comes to equity and social justice. And so for me also it was that particular recognition that being a female has its disadvantages, and I just have to look for where does it give me an edge and try to capitalize and optimize that.
Wise words. Thank you for that. Karima.
It's amazing that all our experiences take us back into our childhood. And for me, it was at age 10 when my dad died. And my mom became a widow at age 33 years old back in Tanzania. And we are an all-woman family as well. So we were 3 daughters. I was 10, the eldest, and my sisters were 6 and 3. But for me, it was seeing a woman in her full glory and seeing the power of a woman, because she had never worked a day actually outside the home until my dad died. And then all of a sudden she had to fend for herself and her 3 daughters. And I saw her play it out, and I'll never forget it. Actually, she's a role model for me. I follow her lead very proudly because she just did it. She just, there was no choice. So she rose to the occasion basically and took the skill that she had. So she knew how to stitch clothes. So she became a seamstress, and that's how she made a living and raised us basically. High value for education. Oh my goodness. The standard she set for the 3 of us for education, and there was no choice around it. And she worked very, very hard for it. She went back to school to learn English. She did correspondence courses and learned how to speak and write in English. And I remember editing her essays because she didn't know how to write an essay. So all to just get her life together so she could raise the 3 of us, and devoted her entire life to us and to our kids. As her grandkids were born, she was present for each one of them, not for a week or 2, but for a few months to get us up and comfortable with the new roles that we had as mothers. So she's very much etched in my life as truly a role model. But for me, I've only seen females in my family rise to their full glory, and I've just followed their lead basically, because there was just no other way to do it. That's the only way I knew how to do it. And yeah, you just do it. And her philosophy was very much, if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade out of it. Like, don't fret, just get on with it, basically.
So thank you all for sharing those. I'd like to go back to what Karima said about role models and mentors. Could you speak to us and share with us who have been the women in your lives who have inspired you to do what you do, or that you look to in doing what you do? Slima, would you like to start?
Yeah. Thank you, Romina and Karima, both of you, for sharing your stories about your early memories of what influenced your own gender perspective or your perspective as a woman. I really appreciated hearing those. It reminded me that there's always things in our world, like you were sharing, Farah, that reflect back to us who we are or who we aren't. And sometimes, like, through that, we come to know ourselves over time. And I feel like that's what it's been for me too. My mother is probably one of my greatest role models because, she has, I think coming from Uganda and having that experience of being displaced and coming to a new country and, having to, both of my parents having to pick themselves up from the ground up in a new country, not knowing the language, really being in a new environment. And what I've seen my mother do over and over and over again is persevere and persevere and persevere. And what I've also seen her do is remove the barriers for me. So she was a role model for me and opened the door for me, but I think I also opened doors for her that maybe weren't available to her, as she was living in Canada. So that, I feel like she was a huge role model. I also think sometimes the role models are the people that you don't want to be, which is it's kind of like an inverse, you don't mean for them to be role models, but you kind of look at them and you're like, I'm definitely not walking down that road. And I feel like there's lots of people like that I've had the glory of encountering in my life. And it's reminded me of my own integrity. It's reminded me of how to live an ethical, honest life that really is true to my life purpose, And so that, I also thank those people because I don't think they realized what they were doing for me.
It's great. Taking lessons from wherever they come, right? We learn from those who do and those who don't.
It's actually ditto for me. Honestly, I was teaching a class at U of T today, and it was a class on leadership, and it was about leading teams into the future. And we were talking about mentoring. And exactly what you just said is what I said, which is mentors come at you by design, people that you choose to, this is who I want to be like when I grow up. And I know there are several people for me, and they all happen to be female for the most part. So there's a lovely lady by the name of Dr. Gillian Kernahan, who is the president and CEO of St. Joseph's Hospital in London, Ontario. She is the most profound female leader I know because she leads from values. She is all about, as you said, clearing people's paths so that you are in your full glory. And she doesn't get in your way. Basically, she lets you do your thing. And she makes it her life's mantra that her job is to simply set you up for success and remove your barriers, basically. And then there are people who actually come to your life, the accidental mentors or the surprising people who teach you a lot. You wouldn't have picked them as mentors by design.
So let me just take a slightly different angle to this. I mean, the women in my family are absolutely amazing women. But, more inspirational, let me share some historical figures that I think have had a fairly large influence on me. And I'll start with Bibi Khadija. Here's a woman in the 7th century who took over the family caravan business when her father passed away. She was married twice, widowed twice, before she hired Prophet Muhammad. She proposed to him. She was 40 years old, he was 25. She is the one who encouraged him to give up his work and preach and spread the message full time. Is the one who supported him. So to me, here's a woman who probably bucked at all the social expectations and norms of her age, followed her convictions, her aspirations, and a true role model for men and women, and one that one doesn't hear about. So I always kind of think back and think of all the challenges and how fantastic a person that was. There are a couple more that I'd like to share with you. Another one is Emily Rebling. Emily Rebling, de facto, was the chief engineer for the Brooklyn Bridge. So this is the turn of the 19th century. Now, her husband was actually the chief engineer, but he got really sick and was bedridden, so she took over the project and pretty much completed it. And was recognized for it, though a bit later, first person to cross the bridge. And so it was really my inspiration to go into engineering because I wanted to be just like Emily Rebling. Unfortunately, didn't have what it takes to build suspension bridges, but a woman ahead of her times, and she was quite the activist when it came to things around gender equity. And then the last one I do want to share with you is Maryam Mirzakhani, Iranian mathematician. And another incredible person, sadly died much too young a few years ago at the age of 40. But she's the one who got a perfect score in mathematics, something unheard of, and won the mathematics equivalent to the Nobel Prize. The first Iranian, the first woman, actually the only woman who has won that. And an inspiration to so many girls who normally give up on math because it's difficult, it's not cool, and she changed that image. And when she passed away of breast cancer a few years ago, even the president of Iran, Rouhani, said, they published her photographs in the newspapers, and her head was uncovered. She lived in the United States, and they allow that. Taboo, but because of her celebrity, her fame, her significant achievements, they actually, as I said, allow that to happen. So again, to me, she symbolizes someone who not only bent the rules, but actually changed rules. These are people who changed the world for everyone. And so another tremendous inspiration for me. And again, too sad that we lost her at such an early age. So I thought I'd just share those stories with you.
Thank you so much for that. I am learning so much today. I love this. I'd like to actually go back to your comment, Romina, about Bibi Fatima, because it's a perfect segue into my next question, which is, how has your faith and your spirituality connected and influenced the course of your career? Salima, would you like to start?
Great. The hardest question. You passed the ball to me. Thank you very much. Well, it's had a profound impact on me. As a very young girl, I feel like the Imam set a standard for me. And what that standard for me is that you should never stop striving to achieve your highest and with excellence. And I think that as women, we can't afford not to be excellent. And I'm not saying that because I think therefore to add pressure on all of us to be perfect, because excellence does not equal perfection. What I'm saying is that when we are clear about what we bring to the table, and when we are clear about what we have done and worked at in order to get there, then we can ride that to some extent. We will have barriers in the system. People will get in our way. Things will come our way. But we will not lose faith in ourselves because we are clear about who we are and what we bring to the table. And so what my faith has also taught me is to be a critical thinker, actually, and is not to accept the status quo. And so that is something that I feel like it was seeded for me in our faith. But it's something definitely that I've taken beyond what I obviously gained from being part of the Somali community and into other arenas and realms. And And so I think, whether you call it faith or spirituality or whatever it is a central aspect of who I am and what I do. And what I always say is that I'm in service of humanity and I'm in service of the divine. Like, that is what guides me. Anything I do, whether it's a job I take or whether it's a talk that I do or whether it's an article that I write, it is always in service of humanity. And when it stops being in service of humanity, for me, I should stop doing the work.
That is beautiful. And for me, I would say I'm a product of our institutions. So even as a very young girl back in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, I was volunteering in our institutions at a very, very young age. And by young age, I mean at 12 and 13 and 14, I was volunteering as like an aide, basically, at the Aga Khan Hospital in Dar es Salaam. Our faith, and then the voluntary roles, the way they etch your skill set right at the edge, like they take you to the edge of what is possible at a very young age. So I was doing things as a volunteer, as a very young volunteer, that I could never imagine one could do at age 15 or 16, something like that. Because you get tested, you have just plunged into the role and then you have to rise and just do what has to be done. So I would really give a lot of credit to our institutions for shaping me as a person, but also as a leader as well. And then the choice of nursing as a profession, honestly, this, like back home, nursing was not a respected profession. When I came to Canada, my goal was never to be a nurse, actually, because no one in my family would respect that choice of a profession for me. But Hazrimam did. Hazrimam had this view of nursing as not only a very legitimate and respectable profession, but something that will actually lift the lives of women in society. And you started to see this transformation of gender roles in Pakistan as the Aga Khan University program got established. And then the satellites got established in different countries like Tajikistan, Afghanistan. It's been profound to me, the role of women and how it has been raised by the work of our institutions. To see it on the ground, it's really quite an amazing experience. So I'm very drawn by that, like the role of our institutions in lifting the lives of people in the world really speaks to me about our faith. And I hold on to that, basically.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, and it does. It makes all the difference.
So let me add. I think both Salima and Karima have been so eloquent on this. Maybe three other things that I'd want to add. I too have served on many Jamaati institutions, and I think one of the key takeaways, or something that I have that has really influenced me, is the ethical framework within which our institutions operate. I think both spoke about the opportunities, the leadership, and especially when you're leading volunteers. If you can lead volunteers to do the magnificent work that's done, then leading a corporate world is so much easier. And I think the third one for me, a big takeaway that has been so ingrained in us, besides education, is lifelong learning, and that gets reinforced all the time. And I think most of us have internalized it, and that's gratitude to the community that we belong to.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, all of you, for sharing all of your insights. Lastly, we're going to end on this. If you could go back and you could speak to your, whether it was 3-year-old or 10-year-old child, whatever that moment was, if you could go back and speak to that child and tell them something, what would you say? Karima, would you like to start?
Be fearless, basically. There are moments where I reflect on decisions I've made in my life where if I had the courage I have now, and I could say to myself, what would you do if you were fearless? Do that, basically. I think maybe there could have been different choices on some front. And I think I see this in my daughter. My children teach me a lot. They are more fearless, and it's very admirable to see that they are clear on the lines they draw in the sand. They don't know which paths where they don't want to compromise. They are far more clear than I was at that age. So that's what I would say to myself at that young age, I think.
I love that. Be fearless. Salima, what would you have to say?
I'd say a couple of things. One is that never believe that you are static as a person. Remind yourself always that you can continue to expand and grow, and you can always be different. And I think that's really, really important, because sometimes people feel like who they were 10 years ago is who they need to be today. And that's not true. And then the last thing I'd tell myself is that don't forget that you're infinitely powerful. You are infinitely powerful. And your ability to contribute to the world and impact the world is infinite. Whether you're going to do it in the smallest way or the biggest way, it does not matter. You are a contribution to the world. If I can always remember that, then I will never take myself for granted.
Wow, that was amazing. I think everybody needs to hear that. Thank you so much for that. And Rumina, what about you?
I don't know how you beat that. I think for me, I think it's dreaming big. We sort of sell ourselves short. I did. Dream big. Strive for the moon. So if you don't succeed, you'll hit the stars, right? And going with that is the not to fear failure and getting outside one's comfort zone. I think just being risk averse, maybe it's the upbringing, I'm not sure. But I have to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed before I make a decision, kind of thing. I think just live a little, as someone says, be a bit more fearless and get outside that comfort zone and live fully. It's one life, and we can make such a difference, and never forget the difference we can make.
The other thing I would say is make it your life's mission to open a door for someone every day, and particularly women lifting each other up. It's crucial, because no one's going to do that for us, and we must be there for each other. So when I think of the mentors as well, it's their life mission. It's almost an everyday thing, a normal thing for us to come home and say, today I opened a door for someone to rise. And to do that for each other, because who else will?
Yeah, I like to say we all rise with the tide. So your successes are my successes. And if we keep supporting each other, then we all lift each other up. So with that, I thank you all so much for giving us your time, sharing your wisdom and your insights with everyone today. It has forever changed me, truthfully. And I thank you so much. Inshallah, we can all gather around a real table in a real room sometime, and not just on a Zoom room. Thank you so much, Rumina, Karima, and Salima, for sharing your stories with us. It is so inspiring and amazing to see what you have accomplished and your commitment to this kind of work. It truly is a wonderful signpost of where we have come from. And now we'll hear from a series of women in our Jamaat who have picked up the proverbial torch our predecessors have passed on to us. Please enjoy this piece featuring some outstanding and incredible members of our Jamaat.
Ya Al-Madad. My name is Rana Mustafa. I am a food scientist and researcher with the Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture.
Ya Al-Madad. My name is Karima Sabar. I am the CEO and partner at Quark Venture LP, which is a venture capital firm investing globally in health technologies.
Ya Ali Madad. My name is Nay Karbabzada, and I'm honored to be here today. Currently, I'm in the clinical years of my medical training. When I began medical school, I was enrolled in a dual degree, medicine and law. Last summer, I finished my law degree, and next year, inshallah, I'll be finishing medical school. I ended up where I am mostly out of pure luck, prayers, and hard work.
Yalamadat everyone. My name is Shalisa Sajwani, and I'm an oncology pharmacist by profession. And I'm also the outgoing president of Pharmacists Without Borders Canada.
So I had begun my career in television as an associate director working in a live control room environment doing news and live news specials when I decided to pursue elite level sport as a track cyclist.
Yali Madad, my name is Jamila Malikzada. I'm owner of the Jamila's Kitchen and Grill, Coquitlam, BC.
I would say what inspired me to do this is my love for science. So at every stage of my 35-year career, everything I've done has involved science. I loved science and my passion for science has driven me.
We opened this small business 2017. I serve my customer. Beside that, when I always cook food for those people who don't have it money, we give them free food. I love to help my community. I love to help those people living to my community.
My biggest inspiration has been my journey as a female immigrant from a country where girls continue to struggle in getting an education, even in the 21st century. I'm also blessed to have a family who values education and a father who chose to come to Canada so that his daughters could be educated.
I was inspired to go into both oncology and global health, actually because of Hazrat Imam's firmans and guidance and his particular focus in both of those areas. I feel really grateful that I've been able to go into both of those areas as a career and service journey.
I was born in a little village in Al-Khawabi in Syria. Since I was a little girl, I noticed that women around me do not have the life that they deserve. I wanted to change their life and to be a role model. I was inspired by one of Maulana Hazrat Imam's Faraman when he says that education is our best way to change our life. For this reason, I decided to go to the university. I got a Bachelor of Food Engineering, and because of my performance, I was awarded a scholarship to travel to France and get a master's and a PhD there. In Syria, I was working as a university professor. I was fortunate to work with a lot of students, helping them, guiding them for a better future.
So I think in life we all go through so many ups and downs, and athletics is no different. What I've learned is that there's so many lessons from athletics that I regularly apply to all aspects of my life and definitely to my career on a daily basis. Some skills that I've honed through sport that carry over to just about everything. Persistence, integrity, work ethic, discipline, dealing with nerves, all of those things cross over into the environment of live television too.
I faced many challenges in getting to where I am. I'm the first one in my family to go to medical school or to go to law school. So I didn't have the wisdom of putting an application together or any other associated tips that go with that. When I started, I had no idea how rigorous the application process was. And so I was lucky to have people in the community, in our community, as well as those outside our community, who really helped me put an application together and succeed in my journey.
When I started in the pharmaceutical healthcare sector, it was a very male-dominated sector with very little diversity. So I had to work harder, perform better, and make more of an effort to socialize my ideas that I wanted implemented with my colleagues and others around me.
Unfortunately, the civil war in Syria forced me to leave, to save my career and my life, and to be able to support my family in Syria. In Saskatchewan, I got the chance to know a lot of people, to learn a lot of things. However, my journey was never easy.
Now, the biggest obstacle that I've had to face in my life was cancer. I am an oncology pharmacist by profession, but I'm also a ovarian cancer survivor. And I've been in remission for 2 years, and cancer really taught me that the most important thing to my life right now is whether I can live a life according to my value systems. And I think living consciously according to one's value systems is a really helpful tool and compass to get you through really difficult times. And that's what I learned.
Hope, faith, and resilience. My 3 things, my 3 keys for a successful life. Being patient and taking every problem as an opportunity to grow and learn helped me a lot throughout this journey.
And I'm telling to everybody, if you have some goal, work harder, believe yourself, your faith, and one day, inshallah, you're coming successful.
To follow their passion and be bold. This is really important. If you're passionate about what you want to do, you're more likely to be successful and you're more likely to excel.
So one of the things that I learned from pursuing elite level athletics in tandem with a career is that it was really important for me to surround myself with my team, with whether it be mentors in job or coaches in my cycling, in addition to the support of my own family, friends, and cycling teammates. I built my own personal team.
If and when actually they fall down multiple times during their lives, falling down and failing is not the same thing as being a failure. In fact, failing and falling down is integral to long-term success, because long-term success is basically defined by constantly picking yourself up after falling down so many times.
To have a mentor, to have a network, and to do lots of seva. Your mentors will guide you, your network will inspire you to continue your hard work, and your seva will give you opportunities that you can only dream of. Parents who say that seva gives you barakat is 100% right.
Wow, what amazing stories. It truly is remarkable, the variety of fields in which we have Ismaili women making extraordinary achievements. Of course, there are so many, many more than we are able to feature here, and of whom we are truly proud. All right, is everyone ready to test their knowledge? Let's see how much you know about women in the history of our faith with our Kahoots quiz. To participate in tonight's Kahoot quiz, simply open the Kahoot app or visit kahoot.it and enter the game pin shown on your screen. Are you ready? Let's start. Question 1. Mary, mother of Jesus, or Prophet Isa, is mentioned more times in the Quran than in the entire New Testament of the Bible, Torah, Rig Veda, Bhagavad Gita. The correct answer is New Testament of the Bible. Surah 19 of the Quran bears her Muslim name, Maryam. Ready for the next question? Question 2. Who was the first person to accept Islam? Bibi Amina, Bibi Fatima, Bibi Khadija, Imam Ali. The correct answer is Bibi Khadija. Ready for the next question? Question 3. Which woman is known for the powerful sermon she delivered after Karbala, where she spoke out in the face of injustice? Bibi Khadija, Bibi Fatima, Bibi Zainab, Rabia al-Adawiya. The correct answer is Bibi Zainab. Ready for the next question? Question 4. Improving the status of women was a lifelong process for Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah. During his lifetime, he advocated for women to have right to pray in mosques, right to vote in electoral processes, right to equal partnership in marriage, all of the above. The correct answer is all of the above. Ready for the next question? Question 5. This is a quote of Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah. Fill in the blanks. The time has come for a full recognition that the blank and blank of the women themselves must be the end and purpose of all efforts towards improvement. Happiness, education. Happiness, welfare. Advancement, happiness, consideration, well-being. The correct answer is happiness and welfare. Oof, that was a tough one. How are you doing? Okay, ready for the next question. Question 6. This one is a quote from Maulana Hazri Imam, and again, you have to complete the sentence. Looking through this book of speeches, I came across one whose title immediately caught my attention. Blank. The active influence of women in society. Muslim society, its higher spiritual life owes a great debt to women. Women are the guardians of the life of the race. Educate a woman and you educate a family. The correct answer is educate a woman and you educate a family. Question 7. Which country has a female representative of the AKDN? Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, Uganda, Syria. The correct answer is Afghanistan. You still have 3 more questions to get those points. Question 8. Maulana Hazri Imam said blank are not gender-driven. Leadership qualities, ethical qualities, success, human decency. The correct answer is leadership qualities. Question 9. Which Ismaili sportswoman said the following? If my family can support me, then other families should also support their daughters. They should let their daughters achieve their dreams. They should motivate them and become their support system. Samina Beg, Karishma Ali, Salima Musani, Alia Karmali. The correct answer is Samina Beg. All right, last question. Question 10. Who said the following? We must try to address all the problems that face the women in the Ismaili Jamaat, no matter how delicate or controversial these may be. Princess Yasmin, Princess Zara, Mata Salamat, Lady Alicia. The correct answer is Princess Zara. Well, that was educational. How did you do? I think I need to brush up on my quotes from Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah. In fact, all the quotes. And now we end, as always, with personally my favorite moment. Some musical expressions. This evening we have a beautiful piece by Abi Sampa, Ya Mustafa. Ya Mustafa is Naat Kalam, rendered in the form of a qawwali. This rendition is based on the melody originally composed by none other than Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I had so much fun hosting. Please be safe, take care of each other, and have a wonderful week. Yali Madad.
सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, 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 सानी तेरा कोई नहीं। काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका काली कमली वाले आका काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं। I call to you, I call your name, I call to you, I call your name. Oh, can I be your only one? Reach out to me, reach out to me. Your love is all I ever need. काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले आका काली कमली वाले आका काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, सानी 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 काली सानी काली कमली वाले आका सानी तेरा कोई नहीं, काली कमली वाले Sari sani sare gama ni, sari sani sare gama pa, sari sani sare gama ni, sari sani sare gama pa, sari sani sare gama ni, sari sani sare gama pa, sari sani sare gama ni, sari sani sare gama pa, sari sani sare gama ni, sari sani sare gama pa, sari sani sare gama ni. Mama gaga baba mama da baba ni ni da baba ni za za re ga ma pa da ni za sa re ga ma pa da ni za re ga ma pa da ni za re ga ma pa da ni za Mama Daniza, Mama Daniza, Mama Daniza. 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 Kali Kamali